Welcome all to the Danube Indeet Model webinar. I'm really glad that you could find the time slot to join us. I will give you a short presentation of the overall objects of and purpose of the project. And then I will give the floor to Professor Mario Wasak and his team to talk in depth about the model that we are developing in the frame of this project. Okay. The Danube Indeet project is a project funded by the Danube Region Program. And there are several key challenges that we have identified during the development of the project concept that we would like to tackle. And it has to, we are dealing with energy, of course, in the frame of this project. So there are several key factors that led to the development of the project. One of them is the increasing share of renewables. And let's put it simply, the efficient use of the renewable electricity generated by the increasing amount of renewable power plants. The second issue that is also highlighted by the recent power shortages that the Balkans has suffered is energy security, and it has, let's say, two sides. One of them is the reliance of fossil fuels. That is also has two sides in terms of how people perceive it. One of them is a political side of the fossil fuels and energy security, and the other side is, of course, increasing energy prices in recent years. Secondly, there are countries in Europe who are phasing out nuclear energy, and also there is a large debate around nuclear energy. So there are key challenges in our energy systems, and especially the increasing share of renewables point towards infrastructure development that is quite costly in terms of grid expansion, grid capacities, and our concept deals or focuses on energy storage, the conversion of energy mostly into hydrogen. That is also a storage options, and also, let's say, the factors influencing the placement of such infrastructure. The base concept starts from the current status, especially in countries that don't have the option for storing electricity in water reservoirs. The renewable energy production goes directly into the grid. There is one element that we can introduce, a technology that is not mature yet, is using electric cars as mobile storage systems. That is a vehicle to grid storage. And then we have an emerging technology that is getting a lot of attention, is hydrogen using electrolysis to produce hydrogen that has many uses, and also is able to be used as an energy carrier, being it used directly or fed into the gas grid. And in terms of storing electricity in vehicles, there are already production models that are used for charging or using electricity, and the concept is getting more and more traction with vehicle to home and vehicle to grid applications. And of course, using the electric vehicles as storage units can help the grid. And also, it can help the consumers to use the electricity at home while renewable production is low. Also, we can think about a larger concept when not only the personal vehicles are used to store electricity, but especially thinking about electric buses, new electric buses can have up to like 500 kilowatt hours of storage capacity that in theory can be used uh, mostly during the night. The other part of the project concept is the usage of hydrogen that can, so we can use the surplus renewable electricity to create hydrogen, and there are several uses to hydrogen as industrial gas, energy carrier, and such. So the whole concept is, in this regard, is really simple. What we try to do with the concept will be presented more in detail by Professor Mario, and how we can use the Danube Indeet model to increase the efficiency, or try to explore how to increase a more optimal infrastructure setup of a system consisting of renewables, electric cars as energy storage, and a hydrogen part, a hydrogen economy, let's say. There are the main goals of the project is firstly to create this model that gives us, let's say, an optimal model for ideal sizing and operation of the local infrastructure in a given small geographical area. There is also another part that is usually people consider it boring, but it's really important, as the devil lies in details, is the legal frameworks. And thirdly, we would like to test and validate the model and find suitable business models that can help the whole energy storage economy, let's say, to gain more traction by offering models that make sense in an economic way. And using this knowledge gathered in the project, we are creating a strategy for an integrated energy and mobility concept for the Danube region. The project partnership consists of municipalities that are also pilot partners who will have the task to collect detailed data about their respective region or geographical area, to map renewables, current energy storage options, and information about hydrogen and several other types of data. Then we have experts, and of course, today's main presentation will be held by Professor Mario, who is a professor at the University of Zagreb, the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing. They are responsible for the tool development that will be tested by the pilot partners. We have legal experts who lead the way in analyzing the legal environment in the Danube region, and we have experts that are responsible for supporting all the other partners, and also supporting the economic aspect of the project. You can see the consortium on the map. It spans almost the whole Danube region. As you can see, we have 12 partners from 10 Danube region countries, and the partnership is also enhanced by the 9 associated partners who support our activities. The project is in numbers. We have a bit over 2.5 million euros for the project duration. And of course, our team is more than 40 people, and we are working together to achieve our project goals. And with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. And you can see our email addresses. Unfortunately, our project manager can't be here with us today, but please feel free to reach out to us in the future. And with this, I would like to give the floor to Professor Mario and his team to present us the Danube Indeet model. Thank you.
Thank you, Balázs, for the introduction and for the presentation of the overall outlook of our Danube Indeet project. Good morning to everybody from my side, also the side of my team. I will share the screen, and we can start the presentation. Okay, let me just switch to this presentation and to the beginning. Yeah, okay. So I hope you can see my screen in almost full screen mode. There are some toolbars below, but okay, I believe it's visible. As part of the Danube Indeet project, we would like to develop the software tool which we call Danube Indeet Model, which is meant for joint investment operation decision support for a combination of electromobility and hydrogen infrastructure. It's meant for the bottom-up approach to accommodate for specific electromobility needs, also hydrogen needs, be it either current or emerging, for local communities and regions. So it is a bottom-up tool. We are still at the early phase of the project, and the aim of this webinar is to get feedback from all those who are interested in this topic, to direct us additionally to maybe even change slightly our focus, with the main intention to make the tool as applicable to a wider set of stakeholders as possible. So we want it really to be useful and used. So I would start this presentation, but then further my colleagues will add up and give you more details. I will first show the concept. I would say the main word and the innovation emphasis in this tool is on this joint optimization. So we want to optimize at once the related infrastructure for electromobility and hydrogen, and some leaning infrastructure. We'll see the concept in a moment. And also, besides just deciding on sizing, we want to as well say how this sized equipment altogether should operate to provide the best results. The motivation to consider the operation together with sizing is the fact that the environment in which this infrastructure operates is really dynamic, meaning that the prices may change, meaning that the needs of users may change quite quickly. Here for electromobility, you will see we are also using some stochastic approaches to well represent the electromobility needs over time. And with this, we would like to also plan how the infrastructure would operate to provide the best results. And after the concept, my colleagues Ivan Grabic, Antonio Carneluti will give you more insight into two branches, let's say, of our Danube Indeet model. One is regarding electromobility. This will be covered by Ivan. And one is related to hydrogen and some other leaning parts that will be covered by Antonio. So later on, you will see again this figure, but now I will try to explain the concept. Meaning, what are we considering as our infrastructure, and how is it organized? So here are different systems that or processes that compose the full figure of the infrastructure. But what must be let's say registered from the very beginning. So this is like a full setup that we allow. But in a specific optimization run, some of those processes might not exist, meaning they would be zeroed in size, because they might not be economically viable. Here in the concept, I present the full span of possibilities that we allow for the constitution of this infrastructure of combined electromobility and hydrogen. So we have considered as main parts electricity, which is here shown with the gray boxes, then water in blue boxes, then hydrogen part in this light green boxes. Then as a byproduct of electrolysis, we also consider oxygen as a possibility to be as well provided. And as the fifth part, we also consider the possibility of using heat. You may see different shapes and what do they mean. So I would just mention now individual components and how they form the whole infrastructure. So we consider there is an electricity grid connection point. So the optimization is meant for the infrastructure in regions, in municipalities. What is here considered in the model as a single grid connection point may actually in reality be several grid connection points at the end, but they are considered together in terms of energy. They are communicating with the grid, so they are considered in an aggregate, let's say. Nevertheless, the constraints on power flows can be posed in parts. For instance, on specific segments of these systems, allowing us to consider as well the constraints coming from a specific real grid connection point that exists. Then we allow part of the energy production to be already present as some existing renewable energy plant. And further, we allow additional capacity of photovoltaics to be added by the optimization. Then regarding electromobility, one big chunk, let's say, of the infrastructure we consider, we will consider specific stochastically described needs for charging. Ivan will give more details here and show how we account for flexibility. Because in one, from let's say one side, electromobility can be considered as a big problem for the electricity grid, meaning that suddenly huge additional amount of energy needs to be delivered through the grid. But at the same time, it can be considered as an opportunity as well, because this huge amount of energy that needs to be delivered can be delivered in a flexible way if there is actually a possibility to moderate how the energy is put into the electric vehicle. If we have, let's say, more time to charge the vehicle, then the minimum time possible is given. So, for instance, charging full power compared to charging with lower power, or charging with specific waveform of charger power, finally delivering the needed amount of energy in the set time frame. So electromobility is considered here as both the problem and as an opportunity. And of course, we want, with the concept, to maximize the opportunities and minimize the problem at the end. So Ivan will give more details about it. Then further part on the electricity side is the possibility of adding battery energy storage system together with a proper power converter, and to size it, of course, the battery and the power converter. There is an additional fixed electricity consumption that might exist. For instance, if we are talking about the municipality as a consumer, it could be the consumption of the buildings owned by municipality, might be also street lighting, etc. So there is an electricity bus or a backbone for, let's say, sharing electrical energy. Then we dive into the hydrogen part, which practically is a merger of everything. So practically connected to all different energy materials vectors that we consider. So from one hand, the electrolyzer is supplied with electricity. It of course requires water to operate, to finally produce hydrogen and oxygen from water. Unfortunately, it also generates some heat. It is a known problem of hydrogen, that we have significant heat generated from it, because usually the efficiency in one conversion direction is about 70 or even 60%, and this also is then very much directing the usage of electrolyzers. So it will be much more beneficial to use it when there is some heat consumer nearby that can exploit this waste heat, let's say, and turn it into useful heat. So from the water side, marked here in blue, we are considering that we can use both rain collected and also water from the municipality grid. The rain water can be collected in a properly sized water tank. And we also need to have pump and demineralizer to finally provide the water of proper pureness and quality for the electrolyzer. Of course, the main product of electrolyzer is hydrogen, which needs to be compressed, and then it's stored in a hydrogen tank prepared for different usages. The usages that we consider here are on one hand direct injection into the gas grid, if this is possible, of course. then compressing it further and using it for sales for fuel cell electric vehicles or hydrogen internal combustion engine vehicles. Or hydrogen can be used to convert back the energy to electricity, of course taking into account really nasty efficiency factor of this whole conversion cycle. So this would be done, of course, only when economically viable and when there is a really strong need for it, but we allow all the options. So I haven't just mentioned the part with the oxygen. So we consider that also oxygen can be monetized at the end if there is a need for it. If not, then of course, then it would be released to the air. But it is considered as a possible option. So this would be a full scale of the infrastructure we consider, but the model itself then would give to the optimization actually the ingerence at the end to decide which parts of the infrastructure will be there and which not, and not just which will be there, but in which size they will be there. So we are deciding on the size of a specific component. So the optimization model we are considering would use as inputs the following things. First, the location, which is important for several reasons. One is for photovoltaics production. The other is for precipitation amount when we are considering the rainwater collection. And some other things that are location specific. Then we consider the number and type of already existing chargers, as well as you will see the specific types of available chargers that can be additionally installed. Then very important input is electric vehicles charging requirements, which is also a very delicate input, which we know will strongly rise, and important is change through time. So we would allow here to the users to somehow simply enter this electromobility needs, and with different data collected already contained in the tool for specific electric vehicles charging positions. We will from this build stochastic description of the electromobility needs on the base of a single vehicle multiplied through the expected number of vehicles throughout a 1 year period to allow consideration of real electromobility needs and how they would be managed optimally with all the remaining infrastructure. Then also we have the projected electricity consumption, also hydrogen needs, available surface for photovoltaics to be additionally installed. Then there is a bunch of parameters regarding prices for electricity, hydrogen, water, heat. Tariffs for electricity, the different components in prices like maximum power, different prices throughout the day. So all these would be allowed to be entered. And there are parameters that allow to, let's say, accommodate for a specific equipment you would aim to use to build your infrastructure. You would be able to enter their technical parameters, also their costing parameters. However, for all of these, let's say, technical specific parameters, the model would provide a default value. This means that you would be able to do the computations with the infrastructure, although you might not know all the infrastructure in enough details to set the technical parameters on your own. So you would be offered default values for specific parameters of the equipment. But if your knowledge allows you to better parameterize than the default parameter gives you, you would be freely in a position to make your own parameterization. The idea is to make a simple user interface, and Ivan and Antonio will show you in more detail how we plan it for now. And the idea is to have the computations offline. Why is this so? One part is a practical reason of much easier maintenance of this software if we just allow it for download to everybody and then everybody runs it on their local computer. So it's practical on our side, because then we need not to reserve some server capacities centrally to which everybody would connect and try to run the optimization for their specific cases. So that is a practical reason. Another, I would say, even more important reason is that all the data you would enter here into the model would remain totally privately on your side. So you would download the tool on your computer and you would use it locally with all these maybe sensitive market data or data you would negotiate, for instance, with your electricity supplier. So this all stays on your side and it's totally private. And finally, what are the outputs? So we are providing in a joint optimization. That is, as I said, an important keyword, joint optimization of both the investment parameters and the operation schedule for individual processes we consider in the infrastructure. So from the infrastructure parameters, we are here naming the EV chargers, photovoltaics, battery energy storage system, electrolyzer with its leaning compressor storage and so on, and also different other storages for water, for oxygen, etc. But besides just the sizing, we also provide the optimal operation schedule. And through the tool, after the results are obtained, you would be able to, in detail, inspect the techno-economical assessment, meaning that all the variables in this infrastructure would be provided to you, how they should evolve over a full year period to gain this optimal results that are obtained. And let's say the idea behind that enables us to perform the joint operation schedule and sizing optimization is that we actually are starting from the fact that we allow all the different parts to evolve, and we price tag the maximum of variables values throughout the year, because this tells us how the specific component should be sized. Because it must withstand, of course, the maximum value of their specific variables. And of course, the optimization then is very cautious. It takes into account the amount of investment that needs to be put in place to allow a certain capacity of a specific component, and thus, in this way, we are finally getting the setup of the equipment that runs optimally. And not a surprise can be the result when the suggested investment is zero. because you would get this as a result when the investment is not economically viable. An important input which I forgot to mention here, and it's very important when we are talking about investment, is the required payoff period time. So we are actually constructing the optimization problem in a way that gains in operation compared to the currently existing infrastructure minus the maintenance costs through the amount of years that is set by the user must finally overweigh the investment, meaning that the operational gains, once more minus the maintenance costs, through a specific number of years, finally must be greater than the investment itself. So this is how we actually then ensure that we will have the payoff in a required amount of time. Okay, and for the model, which Antonio and Ivan will be giving in more details, we have, let's say, two specific input strains, I would say. So one is for the electromobility part, and the other is for, let's say, for everything else. So for electromobility, we are using specific machine learning techniques, stochastic representation, based on the either detailed representation of electromobility needs provided by the user or very simplistic ones to finally build up the specific electromobility needs for the whole year. Ivan will show what does this mean, electromobility need. It's not just kilowatt hours profiles, but in addition something related to time of connection, etc., allowing us to do management on the chargers themselves, while still ensuring that electromobility need is satisfied. And besides electromobility, we have, I would say, everything else. So hydrogen, PV, battery energy storage system, sized properly to give the optimal investment setup and operation schedule at the end. Electromobility part will be a bit standing out from this, let's say, joint optimization of everything, because foremost we need to decide on the proper amount of chargers such that the users can connect to these chargers, that there is always a charger available according to our stochastic description of electromobility needs, or maybe there is some congestion allowed at a specific part of the year. So this will be also decided by the user how much comfort it will be given to electromobility users. And I would just conclude to show you that we are confident in what we are saying, because we have also some background projects already done in this respect of joint sizing and optimization for also specific complex infrastructure of power to gas hubs, where we have considered really a rich set of different processes possible in power to gas hubs, like anaerobic digesters, methanization reactors, then electrolyzers, also storages for hydrogen, for biomass, for biochar, then also combustion of biochar, sorry, not combustion, but pyrolysis of biochar to produce syngas. So many different energy conversion paths were considered, and the sizing and operation schedule optimization tool was built, which is now publicly available on this link. And more to it, we also have the atlas for practically entire Danube region of specific infrastructure that can support the users in planning this power to gas hubs, which is directly linked to the tool, and the tool can take the inputs about specific infrastructure available in vicinity of the location where the power to gas hub is planned. This was achieved through our atlas of renewable energy, also built within this project. It was funded also through Interreg Danube in the previous funding period. The project was Danube to gas. So here are these links, and you can freely download all these tools and use them already, and see whether they are useful for you. So everything is completely open, meaning there is a manual which gives all the mathematics behind the tool, so nothing is hidden. And finally, you have also some examples of already run optimization there. There is also a video tutorial showing you, giving you quick crash course how to use the tool. So I invite you also to check this tool and see from there what you might expect also from the Danube Indeet model. The important thing is that this concept is still under development, let's say, though it has matured enough such that we are also able to perform the certain programming and development steps. But we would like to hear the needs from all of you and the suggestions how to further improve it, really to accommodate the model for your needs. So the idea finally of the Interreg Danube program in general is to support regional development, and we were selected by the program to give these tools to you, so paid by the program, so exploit us. We are here to try to accommodate your needs. So with this, I would give the floor to first Ivan and then Antonio to give you more details, and then the questions and discussion we can perform at the end. Now we would like to give you more insight. I would stop sharing and I would give then the possibility to Antonio and Ivan later on to share, such that they can more easily navigate through the presentation. Okay, so I give the word to Antonio first. I will stop sharing now. Already Antonio is sharing. Okay. No, sorry, Ivan first, right? Sorry for the confusement. Ivan, it's your turn.
Thank you, Professor. Sorry. Kako da to pravim?
Ali da si taj.
Čekaj, prvo da moram ovo jer će mi oba screena.
Okay, super.
Do you see the screen? Yes. Do you hear me all?
Yes, all fine.
Yes. Okay.
You can start.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ivan. Today I will go through electromobility part of our model. So Professor already explained how the increase of electromobility can pose some challenges and some opportunities. I just wanted to share this graph where it's almost exponential increase in registered electric vehicle in Europe is reported by International Energy Agency. And maybe a little bit more about these challenges and opportunities. So we are considering here challenges of unmanaged charging. So one of of the challenges is peak load. So it's shown that multiple EV driving power from the same, for example, series transformer at the same time can cause equipment failure. And also some studies show that uncoordinated charging can lead to grid instability and power outages. On the other hand, with vehicle to grid available, which means that there is bidirectional connection between EV and grid, we can use electrical vehicles to even improve grid stability. So in our model, electromobility, we look at it from two perspectives. So for the optimization, we need a load profile. So this means actually how the demanded power changes by the day. Another thing we need is the amount of flexibility in delivering this energy. This practically means, is it possible to, for example, delay charging a vehicle? And can we take energy in some cases from the battery, for example, to improve the grid stability? Where this flexibility comes from, maybe to illustrate it with an example. For example, if driver wants to charge his vehicle as soon as possible and leave, we would say that we don't have any flexibility in that system because we don't have much choice. We need to give him maximal power. On the other hand, if the electric vehicle stays connected for longer period than necessary for charging, we can use that time for optimally schedule this charging. Or if a bidirectional charging is available, vehicle to grid is possible only if this additional connection time is available. So how to model these two things? We took a data-driven approach, as Professor already said. 6 pilots regions, which are partners in this project, also will collect data for every charging session. This approach ensures that our solutions are grounded in the actual behavior and not just theoretical. How do we look at every charging station? So we look at 4 key data points. The first one is connection time. So this marks the moment when an EV is plugged into the charging station. So we assume that this is also when the charging starts, even though there can be a slight delay, slight gap between connection time and start of charging. The second key point is the end of charging. This signifies the moment when the charging is done. And the third important part for the flexibility is disconnect time. So this can be at the same time as the end of charging, but also there could be a gap between end of charging and disconnect time. And this gives us flexibility because we assume that from connection time to disconnect time, we have a possible charging windows where we can optimally schedule how to deliver energy. And also, fourth key point is how much energy the vehicle needs from that charging session. So to do that, we are going to use the collected data and do the data analysis on it and determine appropriate machine learning model architecture. Here we opted for probabilistic graphical models because they are, for us, the best compromise between accuracy and simplicity. We already said that we want this model to be used, so we didn't want to sacrifice simplicity of the model for the few % increase in the accuracy. It's also important for us that to be used, the model needs to generalize to new locations. So also our approach is good for that. We are also going to use that data to train model parameters and then validate the model's performance on new data to ensure this generalization. At the end, when the model is ready, we will deploy it with simple user interface, where we will enable user to input relevant parameters and let him run the model and provide visualization or summaries that will be easily interpretable for decision makers that will use the model. I will now show a little case study that we did. So we use NREL data set. This data came from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in the US. It is open source. So we looked at things like when people plug in, when they finish charging, and when they actually unplug their cars, as explained in the key points slide. And then by doing clustering analysis, we discovered that EV drivers have different habits and needs, and that they can be clustered in different types of EV drivers. And that motivates us to create this probabilistic graphical model. We noticed some patterns, for example, that in this workplace setting, these different distributions are present on weekday and weekend. So we also incorporated that in the model. And now we call this graphical representation, we call this behavior model, because we assume that it represents the behavior, charging behavior of one driver. So to get our load and flexibility, we took this behavior model, which represents actually a probabilistic distribution of a single vehicle. So this means that instead of single number, our model gives us whole range of possibilities for charging scenarios, where some are more likely and some are less likely to happen. So we already said we need to figure out the total power demand or load. And to get this power demand, we basically simulated a bunch of different charging scenarios, which are now based on the data from the real world that we observed. And we get this realistic power profile. So in this image, also one benefit from this kind of modeling, stochastic modeling, we can see that we calculated here mean estimation of the power, and in these error bars, we can see how certain the model is about this prediction. So we think that this is good information for decision makers to understand that there is a range of possible outcomes, not just a single point. And we assume that this should make the model more trustworthy. In the user interface part, we looked for a simple workflow which would enable anyone to use this model. Every input that we need from the user is explained in details. We will show that later. And for advanced inputs that are maybe hard to get for a normal user, we will give default values. Some features for the EV part is that you can load your own charging data if available. If not available, which we assume that will be in most cases, you can simulate vehicle arrival and load with our model that I just presented. Also, important feature is that you can get recommended number of chargers. We will show that now in the user interface draft. And we hope to populate a database by actually with commercial chargers that user could just click on, and that it can populate all the parameters, that the app can populate all the parameters for the user. And now I'll give you a sneak peek into our user interface that we are currently developing. So this is a draft version. This is our concept that Professor already explained. He also said that some components can be zeroed out from the optimization, but we also give possibility to manually discard some components if you don't want to have them. Now to do EV charging. So if you have some data, we will have a possibility to load it and generate load profiles that are important for the optimization. But since that in most cases that wouldn't be the case, we give this tab where you can simulate your load profiles. One important feature is you could have charging in your workplace, like office or something, or for public transport. This is the two places we are just modeling now, but there will be more options here. Then you would, for example, if you choose workplace, then you would choose the method of entering number of expected vehicles. So let's say we can use weekday and weekend option, and then you would write how many expected users you expect on the weekday. And in the weekend, if you are workplace, you probably have less users, so you will type two numbers instead of, if you choose constant daily, you would write just one number for every day in a year. We also hope to add more options here. Then these are these advanced parameters that would be populated probably for you. But for example, we already added the scaling factor for months to account for places that have maybe exaggerated tourism, so they want to scale their summer months and get more realistic profiles. In this part, you would add chargers that you want to have on your charging station, and as I said, we hope to have already populated database with commercial chargers, so you can just click and not enter these numbers. But of course, if some users want to have their custom chargers defined here, they will also have that possibility always. Add new chargers, delete new chargers, that's something that also you can do. And I already said that we will have a possibility to recommend number of chargers. We will do that by knowing how much users you expect every day, and with this parameter, which I will now try to explain. This is so we call it a wanted customer satisfaction. Maybe it is best to show this on example. If you expect, there will be some most popular times in the day when people are coming, and if you expect this peak of users that is, for example, 100, and you put here that you want 100% satisfaction, we will recommend a number of chargers to allow all users in the peak time to have a charging place. But maybe this will be unrealistic for you, and you want to allow just 50% of your users to have a charging place in the peak time, and then this other 50% will have to come later or go to another station. Or you can say that you want 120% satisfaction. That means that there are still in the peak time that there are still be empty chargers, so available chargers actually. And by this simulation, you will get a recommended number of chargers, which you of course can override. And I think that's it for. Okay. And now I will let. Sorry. Antonio to explain another part.
Ok, dai-me só um pouquinho. Okay, so now I will get a bit more in detail about the hydrogen part and all the other elements that we already mentioned. So going back to the model concept, we now went through this main EV chargers block, but there are still other components that are also very important. We talked the most about the electrolyzer here as the heart of our model. What is interesting, because it encompasses all the energy carriers, so it uses electrical energy and the water to produce hydrogen and also byproduct oxygen and heat. So as I mentioned, our hydrogen production uses electrolyzer as the main component, but we also need to take into account all the other components. So since we require electricity for the hydrogen production, we looked into all the renewables that could be used. So we split them into two main parts. First being the photovoltaic plant that could be located directly on the site, but also if the municipality has some renewable production in the nearby which can be used, we also give the user the possibility to use some renewables as a fixed electricity production. We also want to provide additional flexibility by giving the user possibility to use battery energy storage systems. And as Professor already mentioned, we are giving electrical grid connection point. We are looking at just as a single connection point. And apart from electricity, we also require water. So here we are also looking into account all the sources, which can be from the water grid or from the rainfall, but we need to process that water. We are looking into fuel cells, compressors, storage tanks, but also we are looking how to sell hydrogen and oxygen, how to use the excess heat that is produced from both electrolyzer and the fuel cells. And we are also, as a final part, looking at some fixed electricity and heat consumption. So what else do we need to use electricity for, like the lighting or the cooling on site, and for heat we can look into some like district heating or something like that. So electrolyzer, we envisioned it to use it on a model so that the user can select the type of electrolyzer as the first parameter. We give the possibility to use it as alkaline electrolyzer, proton exchange membrane, or the solid oxide electrolyzer. We want to give the user the possibility to enter some technical parameters like the electrical efficiency, like the heat production, so the amount of heat that is produced. We want to also give the user to possibility to enter the amount of water that is consumed for the electrolysis, and also some temperatures and the pressures that are used. For all these parameters, we plan to give the default values that we consider to be some realistic values, but also the user will be able to change them. And apart from the technical parameters, we also give some financial parameters that we are looking in our optimization, which are some investment, maintenance, replacement cost, but we also give the possibility to use some subsidy on these components. And also we are looking into account the lifetime of each component, and also here the electrolyzer. So now, as I mentioned, we are looking at as photovoltaic plant as the renewable source that is located on site. So we can use both the photovoltaic plant that is already installed. So we give the possibility for user to enter the already available photovoltaic plant, but also in the optimization tool we can get the recommendation to invest more if that would be feasible. So we are giving the possibility to expand the photovoltaic plant. Photovoltaic plant is determined by a detailed set of parameters, so like area, orientation, and inclination of the panels. But we also plan to use the solar radiation data from the publicly available database. So when user enters location for which he is looking the scenario for, then we will get the solar radiation data. And as I mentioned, user can already import the PV power production profile if there is one, or it can be generated through our application as well. We also, as I mentioned, for the electrolyzer, we can give other technical and financial parameters for user to enter. And apart from the local renewable production, we also give the possibility for the remote renewable energy production. So if there's some renewables available as in the municipality, it can be exploited. So we are giving the different types of renewables, which can have different installed power and annual electricity production. We are also giving the user the possibility to enter the amount of available energy, so how much can be used from that specific renewable energy plant. But also we are considering to use just the excess energy of that renewable plant. And for that renewable energy plant, we need to define the energy pricing and also other technical and financial parameters. Similarly, we have the possibility to exploit the battery energy storage system, which is comprised of battery and power converter. We are giving the user the possibility to use the already existing battery storage if there is one, but also to expand it or to invest in a new one if that is feasible. Some parameters that are considered here are the capacity of battery, depth of discharge, and the round trip efficiency. And once again, we are looking at many more parameters that are not mentioned here. As Professor mentioned, we are considering electrical grid connection point, which can be also existing one. There can be multiple connection points, but we are just considering all of it as one. We are also giving the user the possibility to expand the connection size of the connection point. And for the connection point, we ask the user to provide the type of the connection and all the electricity pricing models. So the tariffs, the prices, and some additional fees like the feed-in tariff or any other. Here, what we try to do is to collect the database for each of the partner. So with our infrastructure database, we could already give the user all the available tariffs for that specific location. So to make the use of this connection point more easier. But also for the electricity prices, we allow the user to import their own electricity prices, which if they have some, which they used. So next one is the water sources and water processing. So we give the possibility. So for the electrolysis, we need water, and water can come from two different sources. So first is the rain collection. We plan to get the data also based on the location selected, where we can estimate the amount of rain that could be catched. We also plan to set the catchment area, which will then go into water tank. But also water can come directly from the water grid, where we need to define the existing water connection and the possibility of also to expand it with the water prices that are set up. And two supporting components for this part are the water pump and the mineralizer. So for the electrolysis, we need to have water additionally processed, and for that we use the mineralizer, which also have some technical parameters. And then to convert back the hydrogen, we allow that possibility through the fuel cell. So fuel cell is producing electrical energy from the stored hydrogen. That using fuel cell allows additional flexibility to energy system, so we can store the hydrogen that is produced with cheap electricity, and then to produce additional electricity when it is more expensive, for instance. Here we also have some technical and financial parameters such as efficiency, heat production in this case, water also production, and temperatures and pressures we are considering as well. And for financial parameters, we have different costs, subsidies, and lifetimes. Also, additional components that are required to make everything more realistic are the compressors and tanks. We are considering two compressors for the hydrogen and one for the oxygen, as could be seen in the general overall scheme. We use also storage tank as a source of flexibility, so since we can store the hydrogen and use it later. And we use the compressors to increase the pressure that is required for, let's say, for sale or for the hydrogen electric vehicles, for instance. And here we also need some other technical and financial parameters. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, we are considering hydrogen and oxygen sales. So for hydrogen, we are considering, let's say, three main sales parts. So first is injection to the gas grid, if it is possible. Second one is the direct sales to, let's say, to some industry that is nearby in the municipality, where we defined what would be the maximum amount per day or per period for which it is acquired. We also defined the sales for the required pressure and the price of that hydrogen. We are also considering excess oxygen to be sold, let's say, to the hospitals or anyone who would use it. Also, we need the what is the amount that could be sold, what is the pressure and price of that oxygen. And also the third part for the hydrogen sales is the hydrogen cars, which is more oriented towards the future, since hydrogen cars are not that commercially available today, but we are also giving the user the possibility to include that as a possibility for some future scenarios. And finally, we are looking into heat exchanger and fixed electricity and heat consumption. So for fixed electricity consumption, I'm sorry for the typo here, we are considering what are the consumers on site. So it could be some lighting, some cooling system, some electricity need for the operator station or any other. We are allowing the user to import this profile of electricity consumption or to generate it. And also the excess heat from the electrolyzer could be utilized. We are still considering how to give the user the possibility to utilize it. We are giving the possibility of district heating, but also some others. From the graphical user interface standpoint, we are giving the user the possibility to load any data that he has available. So for like fixed electricity production from renewables or the consumption, but also to simulate those profiles if the data is not available. So for some components like photovoltaic and battery storage systems, we are giving the user the possibility to utilize the existing, but also to expand those components if that is economically viable. And I will go back to the user interface just to shortly. So as we mentioned, we have all of these components that could be selected. So for each component, so if we can see that we then have different drop-down menus for each of the components. For the electrolyzer, as I mentioned, we are selecting, let's say, a type of the electrolyzer, and then we are inputting some parameters, which are some general and some advanced parameters. And here are the compressors and storage tanks used as well. So something to also mention in this draft of the user interface is we try to make it the most, so to make it really easy to use for any different type of user. So you don't need to be an expert. You can just click on those on this question marks, which can explain every parameters into a bit more in detail. Something also worth mentioning is that we plan to include different languages for the so we can use, for instance, Croatian or Serbian or any other language from the partners to use, so to make this available to basically everybody, to make it easy for any type of user. And yeah, that is pretty much the current state of the user interface. And with that, I would like to conclude my part as well.
Okay, Bauer, so we're back to you to moderate the discussion, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was waiting if you have any concluding words on your part. But if not, I would like to give the floor to any one of us here, part of the meeting, to give us feedback about the model itself, if it is a sound model, if you think it's useful for regions, municipalities, other organizations wishing to improve their energy systems, and overall, if please let us know what do you think about the Danube Indeet model. Because sorry, I didn't prepare questions, because I think all my questions were answered in previous meetings that were not public at the moment or at the time.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and also suggestions, any suggestions what additionally to consider, what would someone need to even make it more relevant, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks first of all for the presentations, very, very clear and very rich in detail. So I think first question is, will all the slides be available? Because it would be very useful to go through them in a little bit more detail and take a bit of time to go through the detail. The model is very interesting. I think obviously, like all models, intrinsically, the real test will be applying it and seeing the results that come out through its application. but how do you see collaboration with other groups? I work with the North Adriatic Hydrogen Valley initiative, and certainly we'd be interested in following your progress and seeing how the model pans out and how you utilize it, and the experience that you have over the coming months. So how do you see that kind of interaction and collaboration working in the future?
Okay. Thank you. So yes, of course, the materials will be available for everyone. So Balázs will, I hope, ensure that everybody gets the presentation. Well, the collaboration within the living time of this project, and we are still at its early phase, I would say. The collaboration should function through different webinars and these open events that we establish, but also through contacts any time you would prefer, if you would like to get an update. At certain point in time, we will also publish the software on the web, and from that point it will be freely usable. But that will happen, I would say, in a later phase of the project, because first we need to test it internally within the consortium, not to give some alpha versions, let's say, for everyone to test. But at the end, it will be at the disposal, this final result. However, we also intended to get as much feedback as possible to make it relevant, and that's the intention why we are doing it now, this webinar. It wasn't planned initially in the project to have the webinar at this point, but we decided it's really interesting to inform people on time, to get them engaged, and to enable that they also provide us with the feedback what they would like to have inside, maybe some feature we are missing, and that's the way how we would like to interact. Of course, all our contacts are here already in this presentation, and we are available for contact at any time, not just for emails. We can organize specific tailored calls further to discuss different topics, and we are open for any mode of interaction, I would say. That's the reason why we started to disseminate this early, although we don't have the model ready. So we wanted to give a chance to be influenced by as much as possible interested stakeholders. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And
also, I just wanted to jump in to inform you that also cooperation is a very integral part of the project. So it's not only about creating a model and creating a scientific background, but since these are new concepts, the projects are quite complex, I would say. So there is also, I think the specific objective is called anchorage of the Danube Indeet concept. And I think it encapsulates this very well, because there's a policy level of developing energy systems, and I think the projects themselves also require a large amount of cooperation between the public sector and the private sector, and we would like to lean into that, and we will organize mostly national events, because I think most of the developments that will happen are happening on the national level for most of the time. Of course, there are bigger ones, but each of the partners can reach their national stakeholders more effectively, and it's a part of the whole project process. And indeed, as Mario just said or explained, it will be at a bit later stage, because of course it's only the first semester. This is the 6 months of this project, and we are just finalizing or we are at an interim stage of the model that is the basis of all the other activities in the project. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, thank you for that. If it's possible to share, as well as the slides of the presentations, the recording. I know that some of my colleagues weren't able to be here and participate directly today, but would be interested, I'm sure, in some of the information.
Of course, yeah.
And I think from our point of view, because we're a transnational hydrogen valley, one of the issues that we face is actually looking not just within one geographical area, but across borders, how this type of tool might be useful in providing the evidence that allows policymakers to make those evidence-based decisions in their planning. One naive question, perhaps, and I may have just missed this detail, but in the early graphics that you showed of the system, I got the impression that you considered water to be an external resource that was used for the electrolysis. I didn't see, but you may have already envisaged it, but I didn't see any plans to collect and reuse the water at the end of the fuel cell consumption of the hydrogen to try and close that loop and make it
yes, yeah, because usually most of this water is vaporized. So that's why we didn't we didn't consider that part here, didn't pronounce it. But what can be done is, this is what we did also in our preview power to gas hub dimensioning project, is to name the fraction of the water that can be returned again, because usually not all the water can be recovered on the fuel cell, but maybe some fraction. So this will be as an option, so it can be then selected by the user from 0 to 100% to allow it.
I'm aware of some interesting approaches to try and get that to a high percentage as possible.
Great. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it all depends on the technology at the end. That's the issue. So we allowed the tool is technology agnostic, let's say. So you are able to select the parameters, for instance, for the fuel cell that you know. So from a particular producer, and this one might have high water recovery, and you can then select this particular percentage on the high amount. So it will be freely selectable by the user at the end. If the user is an expert and knows these particular parameters, how they are actually valued on the planned equipment they would like to use, yes, they can set these parameters themselves on a specific value. There won't be a problem for that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you both again very much indeed. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe also some other questions or notes, suggestions. I mean, it will be also available for rewatching, and you will be also able to see the video again. And if any question occurs to your mind, or some suggestion, or after you discuss it maybe with your colleagues, we are here and would be happy to answer. Yeah.
Yes, and also you can ask me to cut out your question if you would like to. So it's not a problem. I mean, it's a valid thing. Really.
You mean from the video?
Yeah. So in any case, if you don't want to be in the video and you still would like to ask something, I can happily cut out it. It's not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, maybe people sustain because of recording.
You know, most of us was taught in a kind of Prussian-like school system where Every question was a huge risk. But indeed, the video is recorded, so we can publish it on our website, send you as well, and share it with all the potential stakeholders, and hopefully to spark new discussions and gather new ideas and feedback and recommendations and comments. Indeed. So if you are not commenting now, we are happy to engage with you in a discussion at a later stage. And I think if you don't have any further questions, I would like to thank you all for participating in the meeting. I understand that it's a quite complex model. And it's hard to get a grasp of to really launch a huge discussion. But I hope that you will follow us in the future as well, and we can engage in more discussions in the future. So thank you for being here. And of course, I will send you the presentations and the video recording, a YouTube link to the recording via email also. We plan to release our first newsletters letter in the following week that will also contain this information. So thank you. Stay safe and hopefully see you next time. And
thank you very much as well
thank
from
you.
our side.
And have a nice day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.